Hi. So I decided I would just go live. I have a lot of different things swirling today. A lot of things swirling today. And I'm trying to say it in the most appropriate way. There's just so many topics that I would like to cover because I'm seeing over the last few days, I'm seeing the connections between so many different topics that I have already been knowing for a really long time, but now these things are kind of swirling together in a different way where I feel like I can explain each of them a lot more than I could previously. But at the same time, I go back and forth sometimes on if it's my right to do so. However, I do see that there are people that use their advanced knowledge to harm people, um, and to keep people in patterns which are not even for them, simply because they don't agree or they want control. They want to, the word handler gets thrown around a lot, but that's just a simplified version of what's really going on. And unfortunately, in order to understand kind of the groupings of people who are out to do this, who are out to control the dispersal of knowledge, and how it gets passed along to people, we have to understand multiple ways of how they're operating. We have to understand multiple ways of how, why, where, what, because everybody has a specific ideal that they feel is the real. But the truth behind the real is that everything is real if we choose to believe it. So, knowing that, it's kind of difficult to give you all information because I'm not trying to make you come over to my concept of belief. But at the same time, like if I can see through every person who's coming into my reality and character swapping into my reality to keep tabs on me, and I know it's happening to other people, and I can see how much of a detriment it is in people's lives, and those people cannot see what's happening to them, then I do feel like it is somewhat my duty as a person to share that information as to how to reveal these people. Especially because it's the old archaic way of doing things that are being maintained by basically old witches, warlocks, AI, what have you, so that they can continue to have power and basically tell every newcomer to the game that they're not allowed to interact in ways that are not to their liking. And so it is literally an abusive situation. It's abuse. It's a system of hierarchical abuse that people who have knowledge lord that knowledge over other people. And not everyone does that. There's some people who gain access to these doorways and then use that access to try and help people, to try and quote unquote train people up so that those people can then be strong enough to step into the next phase of their life and save themselves. However, there is a concept of the doorway in general, and people who believe that you have to go through a quote unquote rite of passage in order to make it through this doorway, when that rite of passage is mainly a bunch of criteria that is not favorable. For instance, humiliation tactics and humiliation rituals. For instance, going through trials and tribulations. For instance, being torn away from family members on purpose. For instance, having to deal with high level like witchcraft and illusions being placed on that person's life. For instance, being quote unquote sacrificed both energetically, sexually, energy harvested, all kinds of ways. And the process of which people get put into those spaces is totally not viable, because it's basically whoever has the most power and authority says, okay, that person gets sacrificed and put in this place so that we can energy harvest off of them, basically placing that person within like a purgatory space. And they don't have any say in that. And typically it's someone getting put in that space because somebody believes that they have done something wrong. But then that comes down to who believes that they've done something wrong? And is it that they have actually just refused to go along with the game? Does that constitute being placed into a purgatory space where a group of people can then sexually and energy harvest off of people without their consent? So there's a lot I want to talk about. Like, I'm mainly trying to hone in on this main piece for you guys, that you can understand that unfortunately it's men and women, that each person, once they get to a certain level of understanding, they then choose to utilize this understanding in particular ways, and then they choose to point fingers, humiliate, or throw everything that they're doing onto the person that's actually revealing them. And there's a lot of people who have been talking about masks. And I talk about masks too sometimes, but I've noticed a lot of people who are in the public eye, celebrity profiles at least, who are talking about how they want people to take their masks off while they're wearing a mask. So it's completely bonkers, in my opinion, that the world just doesn't have overall the understanding to fathom the levels of manipulation, the levels of narrative building, and the levels of like energy harvesting that's actually taking place. And because of that, everyone falls victim to these people who basically utilize their influence in negative ways by doing things such as wearing masks, swapping in and out, stepping in and out of characters along their line, to go and screw with, essentially, individuals who they have deemed as having some sort of importance or worth. Using magic based upon like the certain different sources, which is another thing I want to go into. There's like so many topics I want to touch on right now, because in order for people to understand this, it's like you have to understand so many different topics to get there. So it's like you have to understand the premises of like witchcraft and the premises of like belief, and you have to understand the premises of the AI and stepping in and out and liberation and like cosmic soul intelligence and collective soul intelligence. And you need to understand like the Hollywood background, and you need to understand that a lot of people in the public eye who have a lot of followers and influence then amass enough power that they can then take up alt characters, and then they do alt characters, and it's all for power and influence And then the people that know about it are typically placed into purgatory realms so that they can just be energy harvested forever and ever and ever, so that no one ever finds out. And it's like, that's why I'm like, that's why I was like, in order for me to get to what I'm trying to say, there's a lot of things that we need to talk about. There's a lot of things that we need to talk about. Like the people that exchange information, or the people that exchange anything and then take from you behind the scenes because that's how they feel it is. So I guess I'm just going to go in first and talk about, like, let's start by talking about like elemental forces and religion, because this is a big thing that you guys need to know. If you're not, I'm going to say a lot of controversial stuff tonight. Here we go. So if you don't like it, you don't have to be here. But I'm basically going to talk about how each religion is based from a specific source. Like Christianity being like fire and air, Islam being like water, Judaism being like a mix of all, and then demonology and how that relates as well. Because it all comes in. And if you're like still, because this is not me going against religion in any way, this is just me giving you guys tools of understanding this point, and then that being one step for then you guys understanding then the masks, because I want to talk about the masks, then I want to talk about the character swapping. So we'll see where we go, but I just want to, like, my main goal I'm trying to get with people is for them to see these old I'm sorry, but it's just old people who have been in the game for a long time, who are from Hollywood royalty or royal lines or magical royal lines, and so they have lived their entire lives with a certain level of power over people, and now they're losing that power because the layman is coming up, and they are clinging to it with everything they have and pulling as many people into their rings as possible and trying to do everything they can to push people out of public eye who have stepped into these places of knowledge. And so it starts with religion. It goes all the way back to religion, and it starts with how religion, like Christianity, is like fire, solar energy, and it's really just a fight amongst the sources. People who believe in one source over another. And basically everything in this reality, as far as like holy wars, can be broken down into, it's a belief in one source over another source. It's a belief in one main character over another main character. But guess freaking what? There were multiple people. There were multiple main characters. So it's literally entire histories based around who you thought was the Messiah. Which was not even really truly accurate, because if you really get into it, it's just like that person who was born with all of the gifts, and there was multiple of these people, and there's always multiple of these people. Thank you, the multiverse thing. Think about the Spider-Man multiverse. It's saying it without saying it. And this is just like me just saying it, okay? Because it's just time, and it's just, you know, the people that are trying to put their information out there, but they're scared to just really say it, because once people know it, then they don't have the power to control anyone anymore. It's just over, you know, it's just over. We're not there anymore. And I'm not going to go into 2025 like this. I don't know about the rest of you. I'm not going into 2025 like this. Like, no. So, let's talk about first, and then let's just go through this. So you can break it all down into the different parts of the elements based on the alchemical symbols. There's another part where I wanted to, I think it's in this one, where you can also relate each of these to, is it this? Yeah. Oh, where is it? Sorry, I have to find it. I should have had this ahead of time, but I don't. You can basically base everything, all religions, into the Kabbalah tree of life as well. Some people view this as Kabbalistic. That's not true. Like, the Kabbalistic approach to this is literally just one facet of understanding, and this is the other facet of understanding, but it's basically the same. It's basically the same, and you can literally break down every religion into the pathways that they're using the energetic body and the soul Merkaba and how they're functioning. So that's what it is. Sorry, that's what it is. I'm not gonna lie to you. Sorry, that's what it is. And you know, the religious leaders of each of these religions and sects basically know this. They just study this, and then they get to a point of advancement where they liberate their soul from their like physical vessel, and then they use that, and then they feel like, oh, people are not going to understand this, so let's just lie to them. Let's just create a nice little fake story for everyone to believe, so that it'll keep them feeling good without asking too many questions. So Christianity is related to fire. It's like the red team, basically. Islam is related to water. It's like the blue team, basically. Judaism is like they don't play on a team. And then there's also like demonology. So like the air and earth are where we would consider demonology, because once that's like silver and gold, and that's when you start dealing with like liberation. Okay. And so then Hinduism basically tries to create a complete and integrated look at all realms, and understanding that many factions and warring have happened throughout all of history on Earth and on other worlds, which is why like all of the Hindu holy books literally talk about like different forms of beings fighting over Earth and who has control. And that's essentially what's been going on. But that's just one take on it. And people from these other ways of looking at it always call Hinduism like the fallen, because it basically wipes the belief of God. I mean, there's still gods, but it like wipes the belief of a all-encompassing God and refers to it as more of like an elemental force, a universal force. So that's like the difference there. But Christianity is like the sun, the Trinity, like the power of three, the solar, the sun. And some see Christianity as tyrannical because its shadow is the black sun, which is a taker and quote unquote infiltrator. And so this is like, I literally broke this all down into like what realms, but I'm not going to go into all of that. You know, Islam is like moon and lunar energy, also star energy, which is why it literally has a moon and a star. It's not hiding. It's right there. And so they're talking about, yeah, the moon and the stars are our sources of light. These are the reflective energies. So people think of the solar energy as like the life bringer, and people think as the moon and stars as like reflective energies. And so this is why like in Islamic culture, it is more like okay to have people who do readings and like use mysticism and illusion and stuff like that, because it's a part of literally the Kabbalah, the tree of life. It's a part of the tree of life that uses a certain pathway where it does incorporate the moon aspect in it. because each one of these you can actually break down into a body graph. Like, let's say Christianity is the cross. Well, then it's going to be using a cross on the system, and then you're going to be applying that within your actual body. All right? So these are just, I'm not going to go all into this because this is just a facet of what I want to talk about. But I basically want to say that, and then it gets even deeper, because then there's people who believe, that, oh, well, that's not true, and then it's actually like upside down, and it's like, it's literally just a different perspective. It's like there's people who believe that it fits in the body right side up, and then there's other people who believe that it fits in the body upside down, and it's literally just a different perspective, and people are literally warring over what they believe, if we live in a universe that's right side up, or if we live in a universe that's upside down. And it's all basically BS. Excuse me, but it's all basically BS. And so this is like the first thing you need to understand, is understanding that, yeah, all religion is basically based around the control of energy and how it fits in the body and what you do with that. Okay. The next thing I wanted to go into after this, I guess, was like the mask. Which is basically like, which version of yourself are you currently living? So the masks is like, this is my nice little drawing. The masks are like basically all of the yous that are you, that live within you, and then the more that you understand you, the more yous you know. That's what taking the mask off literally is. It's like you go deeper, you find more of yourself, and then you're like, oh, I'm not that, I'm that. And then that mask falls off. And then you go deeper and you're like, wait a second, I'm not that anymore, I'm that. But I also want to talk about the concept of masks in like Native American culture, indigenous American culture, especially like the Northwest indigenous peoples. Mask wearing was a way that you would actually put on a power. It was like so that you would take on and embody the power of whatever you're taking on, like the bear mask, raven mask, otter mask. You would embody those aspects of those animals. Well, we just came out of Halloween, and what is Halloween? Halloween is literally a bunch of people putting on costumes and then embodying the energy of whatever they're stepping into for that day. Halloween is basically the popularized version of that. Now take it one step farther and look at Hollywood and look at acting. What is acting? Acting is making yourself believe that you are a specific thing by putting a mask on and stepping into the role and embodying a character so that you can then take on the qualities of that character, which is also wearing a mask. Which is why I think it's so funny when I see like Hollywood people on Instagram saying, take off your mask, because it's like your entire career is about putting masks on. So shut up. Like, sorry, but like, shut up. And like, it's all about which version of yourself are you currently living and what are you stepping into. And I'm not saying masks are bad, but there's all this stuff about like, take the mask off and authenticity, and that's like the push right now, is like authenticity, taking the masks off. And what that means is like you as an individual in your real life should not be putting on a mask and wearing a mask in your real life, in like meeting people and interacting with people. So authenticity is taking the mask off. And so there's 3D masks, which is like the persona that you wear, but then there's also 5D masks, which are like the spiritual archetypes that you encompass. So your consciousness travels from host to host and can update. So first of all, what you see is a small percentage of what is. So what we see with our eyes is a very, very tiny percentage of what is. So your consciousness can actually travel from host to host, and it can update and alter depending on what program you're inputting into your physical vessel, which is what the archetype is. So if you think about like an archetype, like let's say a deity, like a specific deity, let's say Apollo, because that's a big one that's worshipped, like the temple of Apollo. So like that deity also has a consciousness because it is a deity. It has a belief, and we have ascribed so much belief to this that then can step in and out, and it can be hosted in many different people because many different people believe that they are an embodiment of Apollo. So think about every single time that specific energy is traveling through all of these different people, all of these different facets. It is taking on each and every one of those people's energy as well, which is also another version of wearing a mask. Almost every culture has a tradition related to masks, and they are and were aware of different forms that inhabit the human avatar. So the reason that this is a huge thing is people already knew for all of time that there are different beings that step in and inhabit the human vessel and wear it like an avatar. And these cultures even had spiritual leaders who gained the ability to take masks off and literally like change their appearance and literally like move. And this is a thing that's ongoing. These things have not been lost. These things have not been lost. They're still here. It's just now it's hiding. Now it's like in movie culture. Now it's in entertainment culture, which is another thing I'm going to go into after this. So there's an infinite number of universes and therefore an infinite number of masks that each individual wears. So also when people say, take the mask off, it's never going to end. That's the other thing you need to know. You're going to be like taking off one, and then there's still going to be a mask under there. And then you may feel like that's your authentic representative of who you are, but then you age and you learn more and you experience more and you go through an understanding upgrade, and then you take that mask off too. And that doesn't end. That just keeps going because the universe is infinite and our thoughts are infinite and this reality is infinite. So you can literally wear infinite amount of masks and you don't even know that you're doing it. So the core is who you are. The core is who you are. And over time, we have changed and migrated from one dimension to the next. And that's the other crazy part about this is, you know, they talk about the shift from the 3D to the 5D. Well, that's been happening the whole time. Every single time you upgrade as a person, you've just gone through a reality shift. Every single time you update yourself, you've just gone through a reality shift. The people who are in the public eye work within these spiritual practices because it's about shifting your physical appearance to match what you feel on the inside, because it's usually your inside upgrades and then you shift your outside appearance to match that. That's a reality shift. Every single one of those is a reality shift. It's not just like a big earth thing where we're all switching and upgrading. This is like everyone does this all the time throughout their entire life. This is what quote unquote evolution is. This is what anything. This is change. This is like transformation, evolution. So Earth is a playground where all memories from previous cycles are blocked until certain moments of evolution. So that's what the masks are, and that's what the purpose of the mask is because you're not going to be able to understand who you are until you understand who you are. Time. You're not going to get it until you get it. And that sounds super freaking simple, but that's the truth behind it. You're not going to know that this is a mask until you know it's a mask, and then you're going to take it off and be like, oh, it's a mask. So it's literally that simple. And because we've all been dumbed down to these spiritual, magical practices of masking, unmasking, character swapping, character development, story building, we don't get it anymore. So that's where I wanted to go after that. Now I want to jump to, because I'm trying to get us to the point of understanding the whole picture of this. So then let's go to the magical world of Disney. And the maze. Let's start with the maze, though. Actually, I want to talk about the blessings. No, that doesn't fit right now. Essentially, the Bible says that there's 16 spiritual gifts from different lineages that every person can have. And it's literally talking about there's all these different magical abilities that people that people can have. And, like, biblically, it says that there's 16 total. Discernment, evangelism, exhortation, faith, giving, healing, helps, hospitality, knowledge, leadership, mercy, prophecy, serving, speaking in tongues, teaching or shepherding, and wisdom. And these are all what the Bible accounts for as these gifts. But then I want to go into the maze, okay? The maze, and it's the whole don't get stuck in the maze, don't get stuck in the maze, don't get stuck in the maze. Well, what is the maze? The maze is what we all live in. The maze is the structure of belief. The maze is the matrix. The maze is both inside of you and outside of you. The maze is a combination of multiple different things. And if we go to the story of Daedalus and Icarus, because Daedalus was Icarus's father, and Daedalus was the one who built the maze for King Minos, on the Isle of Minos. That was the original story, okay? But essentially it's mind control. The maze accounts to mind control. Like the term, I wear many hats. I'm not capping. No cap. It's so funny. It's really funny. Wearing a hat is like building a character profile. So like when you are wearing a hat, you're essentially like building a character. Like this is a hat. So when people say, oh, I wear many hats, it's like you have many roles. In roles being like the masks thing, like I was just talking about. Like I have many masks that I put on and wear many different roles in many different situations, which is a form of mind control because it's a part of the maze, and it's understanding who is really underneath those masks or who is really underneath those hats. And if you understand that there's entities that can jump in and out of different vessels and they already know that and they're not like stuck in a body, then that's where that actually comes down to. The other part of this is computer and software, hardware, like simulated coding. So the idea of a simulation, which is also true. There's people that like are like, everything's a simulation, everything's a simulation, everything's a simulation. Well, yes, but no, if that makes sense. Yes, but no, there's more to it because it's also our created design. So it's not exactly a simulation because we made it. And now it's just the people that have power know how to use it and we don't. You understand? Well, not all of us do. And then it's the them mind. This is what I like to call it. They're doing this to us. They're doing that to us. They're doing this to it. Who's they? It's you. You create this reality. And so the they is that it's the people that now know how to work within this game more and better than everyone else. And yeah, they don't tell people. And that's probably the biggest bad part about all of this is they don't tell people how to do it. That's probably the worst part. But like I was saying in the beginning, which is where this is all leading to, if someone's had power their entire life, their entire family lineage throughout all of space and time over this entire realm, they're probably not going to want to like let that go. You understand? They're not going to want to have newcomers come in, especially loose cannons like me who just are out here being like, yeah, this is how you do this, and this is how you do this, and this is how you do this, and this is how you do this. That's definitely not what people are going to want. So who is they? It's a mental programming because they is you. They is you because you create this reality because it's a space of infinite creation possibility. You get to be whatever you want to be. And everything that tells you you can't is a program. And once you start to break that down, and there's gonna, I heard someone that's like, well, what about this and what about that? And yes, I'm not
I'm hearing you maybe
saying that there